All right, hello. More people are probably going to come in as I'm talking, but I just wanted to go ahead and get started for the purposes of respecting everyone's time. This will be recorded and put out on both Facebook and other social media tomorrow. We will be adding, unfortunately, we do not have captions for this right now. I do apologize in advance. However, we are going to go ahead and there will be a captioned version later. Again, we do apologize. I just first want to thank everyone who is here and who is coming to this event today. I am Ross Edelstein. I am a 25-year-old white man with dark brown hair, a dark brown beard. I have a pair of cream and brown headphones. Yeah, that is the color. A charcoal suit and a purple shirt with a purple and blue tie. My background is the neurodiversity symbol with a sort of paint splash theme, the neurodiversity symbol being a gradient rainbow infinity sign on its side. Just as a little bit of background for me, I have a master's in museum studies, and I'm currently pursuing my PhD in special education at Indiana University. My master's coming from Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. And currently I am a graduate assistant at the Epley Institute for Parks and Public Lands, one of the centers for the Indiana Institute on Disability and Community. I also am very active in the Indianapolis museum scene for all things access, especially around autism. I want to start with a brief note on language. Today we are going to default to identity first language, which is autistic people. This is the most common way that autistic people identify themselves, although there are people with autism who identify as people with autism. This is also valid. At the end of the day, we're going to respect the choices of our panelists who all prefer to use identity first language like the majority of autistic people. Now, the purpose of today's event is that this is part of Autism Acceptance Month. Autism Acceptance Month is a part of, or rather it is a change from Autism Awareness Month. Autism, most everyone is aware that it exists at this point, right? Now, autistic people, due to the fact that there is a lot of misunderstanding about what autism actually is, have pushed for acceptance. The big way that autism has been viewed until relatively recently has been that it is a deficit. It is something that is bad to have. And that is not the case at all. It is as much a part of me as my penchant for enjoying purple or the fact that I like wearing suits. It is something that is an inherent part of me. It is something that I cannot change about myself. It is something that, affects the way that I view the world, but also something that, I wouldn't give up or anything because I'm an autistic person. Now, part of what I wanted to share as well is that, why am I hosting this? I don't work at Prairie. I am, oh, cool. Hello, Facebook Live people. I'll just go ahead and give a quick short version of that for everyone coming in on Facebook Live. My name is Ross Edelstein. I have a master's in museum studies from IUPUI, PhD in special ed in progress from IU, and I currently work at the Epley Institute for Parks and Public Lands at Indiana University, which is part of the Indiana Institute on Disability and Community. We are using identity first language here tonight because that is the identity of the panelists. And just like person first language is valid, the majority of autistic people prefer autistic people being recognized as autistic people over people with autism. Although at the end of the day, respect what people like to call themselves or identify as, rather. Now, the purpose of this event is for Autism Acceptance Month, as I was saying, and autism is often misunderstood. It's a difference. It's not a deficit. There's challenges, but that doesn't mean that autistic people are any less than anyone else. And so Autism Acceptance Month has been the push from autistic people to look at things from that acceptance version, because most everyone's aware that autism exists, right? You know, books, movies, TV shows, horrible puzzle piece ads. Now, and that's part of why I'm hosting as well. Now, I first got in contact with the folks at Prairie, specifically Kelsey Van Voorst, who is currently working behind the scenes on all of our tech things tonight. And a big thank you to her. With a paper as a little baby researcher. I was, fresh-faced getting into the master's program and was given the assignment, research something in museums. And I was like, okay, what are museums doing for people with autism? At the time, that was how I was viewing things. And Prairie has, very briefly, one of the longest running sensory-friendly programs in the Indianapolis area, and really in the US too. And it is also one that has continually evolved over time. And so that's kind of how I first got connected to the folks here at Prairie. Continued to work on that at the Epley Institute. That's where a lot of my research is done. That's where I'm kind of focusing my current PhD work, is in how do we make various cultural experiences like parks, like museums, welcoming for autistic people. And so Kelsey reached out asking for me to help get autistic people in for an event like this, artists, storytellers, whatever. And well, part of this is because I'm autistic. It's what I live every day. And so who better to help find people to tell their story than someone who has that similar experience? However, my experience is like pretty typical to how it's represented in media. I'm a white man, which means I was once a little white boy who had autism and was diagnosed relatively early and got good services and ended up being traditionally successful in, academia, kind of fitting that, nutty professor view that a lot of people have for people like me. But that's not necessarily that's not the story that needs to be told. That's a story that you can find in a lot of places, and I will be telling it again in the future because it's one of the things that I do. What really is important is to get the stories of people and experiences that are not typically shared. And so that's what we're here to do today. We have 3 different speakers with their own stories that will be sharing all of the things, or rather in a short little bit, their experiences. At the end of today, we will have a Q&A, and you can put that either in the chat if you're on Facebook. You can put it in the Q&A thing if you are joining us over Zoom, and we will answer them to the best of our ability. Now, I would like to introduce our first speaker tonight, Trina Dixon. Trina Dixon is a self-advocate, certified employment support professional, public speaker, and single mother of 3. Trina is an African-American female in her 40s who was recently diagnosed with ASD, autism spectrum disorder. Her awareness has led to acceptance of her neurodivergent qualities as strengths. She uses these strengths to speak up for and motivate others. Trina, I'll give the floor to you, and you've got 15 minutes.
So he mentioned experiences with autism are different, and that's true because I think everybody also knows that autism is a spectrum. So my experience, like he said, I am in my 40s. I am an African-American female on the spectrum. I also have a son who's on the spectrum. I was born in Spain. I'm a military brat. My dad was in the Air Force. So early in life, I was exposed to different cultures. And in my mind, it's different systems. Growing up on Air Force bases, there's a lot of rules, of course, which is good for some, but maybe not for me. I think one of the signs that I knew I had autism, as well as ADHD, because those are both neurodivergent sort of gifts, I would lose my ID card that I always had to have with me at all times. When you're 10 years old, you get an ID card on a military base, and I would lose mine at least every week. And it got to the point when I went to the office to get a new ID, I would know what form to use. I'd have it all down. Just things like that. I would lose yen all the time. I lived in Japan also. Just repetitive things like that. Not fitting in, but not really wanting to fit in. I remember when I was in kindergarten on an Air Force base, I had a group of friends, and we were all discussing something that we were going to do. We were going to make, this sounds ridiculous, we were going to make loud horse sounds, and we were all going to do it. And when it came time to do it, I was the only one who did it. In retrospect, I guess that means I was taking things literally. So stuff like that. Fast forward to, I moved back to the United States when I was a junior in high school. Another thing, this is kind of an aside, but when I came back to the States, I went to a school where my brother and I were the only African-American people in the whole school. I'd never seen that before in my life. So there was that too. And then there was me being on the spectrum. So not really getting the social skills, but also maybe the racial stuff that was going on, because I'm just not seeing it. So there's that section. And then just growing up in school, I had a learning disorder that had to do with math, as in I can't do math at all. It doesn't really click, but my verbal ability is really, really high. So it kind of carried over. Another aside with the Air Force, when you try to go in the service, they give you a test called the Asvab Test, and it has verbal ability and mathematical. There might be something else now, but there wasn't when I did it back when I was 21. But the only way I passed the test was because my verbal scores were so much higher, and there was such a difference, and that's what got me in. I didn't go well because I got pregnant. But the point I'm trying to make is with the Air Force, they see strengths. Like maybe if I took a test to get into a college and I didn't get, that grade with this high verbal score, but they focused on the high score and they focused on strengths. So I think that kind of led me to, I do have a strength. And so I just started pursuing my strength. I'm trying to sum it up. So going along in life, my neurodivergent, it was causing problems, especially with social skills. I'd have the practical skills to do something, but then I would not advance because I didn't know how to look people in the eye, didn't know how to smile and do small talk. I was just getting the job done. And so that led me to seek help through vocational rehabilitation, where they diagnosed the learning disability, and I started getting good jobs. I worked in social services, and it was sort of the same thing. I would do the job and not advance socially. So just going through a system, I think a lot of my awareness comes with systems. I've been through lots of systems, and most systems are not built for neurodivergent people. They're standardized, they're built for one thing. So I think a lot of my advocacy comes from wanting to change the systems. I think that everything should be able to relate to everyone for some reason, if that makes sense. Another aside, I really, really like the game Tetris. That was a social thing for me. It was actually someone I had a crush on, and this person would go to the arcade and play Tetris. And he was really, really good, and I wanted to relate. So I decided that I was going to be good, and I started playing Tetris, and I became so obsessed that I forgot about the guy and I got really, really good, and I can beat Tetris, and I have a lot of Tetris stuff to this day. I'm going to pause right there.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm honestly hearing about your issues with the dreaded mathematics. I can relate to that a lot. I'm currently in the process of getting a diagnosis for that, potentially myself. So totally understand that. And thank you again for sharing. All right. And just a reminder as we're transitioning speakers, we will, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A if you're joining us over Zoom, or if you're on Facebook, put them in. And let's go ahead and move on to our next speaker. So Carissa, come on and turn on your video. I'm happy to introduce Carissa Madden. Carissa Madden is a disability advocate and educator with previous working experience in higher education, the nonprofit sector, and disability services. Madden is the Neurodiversity Partnerships and Community Manager at Soho Square Solutions, who recruits individuals who want to find good fit jobs in the financial services sector. Her life journey has been a roller coaster ride, challenging obstacles, and succeeds them by overcoming them. One day, she plans to write and publish books and to become a motivational speaker. Carissa, the floor is yours for 15 minutes.
Thank you so much, Ross. I appreciate it. I hope everyone's having a fantastic Friday so far, and I want to make sure everyone's able to see the screen. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
It's looking good.
All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm overall excited to be here today. And what's interesting about today and throughout this whole week, there's a lot of spring holidays are coming, Passover, Easter, and a couple others. And we often reflect about our lives. We think about our challenges. We don't like to face them, but it happens. There's some good times as well. And we often think and see, how can we improve ourselves? How to become better people? And overall, oh boy. So I'm having a little technical difficulty right here. I apologize for that. And let me, oh, fantastic. You know how technology is overall. So my name is Carissa Madden. I was born and raised in Connecticut. I currently live in Florida. I have my bachelor's degree in recreational leisure studies. I have my master's in special education, along with a graduate certificate in disability society from the University of Florida. I have been a disability advocate for over 10 years. And one of the things interesting about me is I'm a research analyst. One of my 5 Clifton strengths is I'm a learner. I love to learn every single day. That's why I love school so much. And right now, I'm learning more about the certain topic called in psychology, overall, industrial and organizational psychology. Boy, it's past my bedtime. So now, as a research analyst, I never knew I was a storyteller. And boy, I didn't think about it till just a couple weeks ago. Talk about my life, my stories. And I hope one day I'll be able to write and publish those stories, become maybe a full-time author. When I was younger, I was often very shy. I wouldn't talk a lot, kept everything to myself. I was close with certain family members. Well, when it comes to social skills, I have imaginary friends, and I felt comfortable talking to them because at least they're not going to talk back in my case. And not only I talk to them, but since the day I was born until now, as a 34-year-old Caucasian female, I have cats. I treat my cats like they're my kids, and I talk to them every single day overall. During while I was growing up, there was some areas of interest caught my attention that I really enjoyed. My first love was art. I used to love to draw. I would love draw cartoon characters, the way to express myself. And then music came along. Not only I enjoyed listening to music, but I played in bands from middle school to college. I played the alto saxophone, and I even minored in music in college. I was first diagnosed with autism around 4 years old. And boy, when the doctors told my parents about my diagnosis, they also mentioned that I would never graduate from high school. Wow. I laugh about that now. When someone tells me I can't do something, I'm going to do it. It's who I am. And I had to strive to be smarter in my academics overall. I utilized the special education courses throughout my whole education from elementary to high school. When I started going to college, I had to utilize the Disability Resource Center. During those times, I really didn't know how to start a conversation. I didn't fit in some way. Had this social anxiety, and people probably make fun of me too. Why not? And another challenge was I didn't know how to make friends. I didn't know how to make them and even maintain those friends, because kids could be really mean. One time, like maybe one day they're gonna be really nice, and the next day they turn to be jerks. But what I succeed in school was I'm a learner, and I continue to learn something new every single day. When I mention about me versus the world, not only I have autism, but I have different multiple disabilities as well. I felt like an outsider because I couldn't relate to people. Feel like the world is against me. I'm feeling weird, being understood, and my anxiety went really high. And I often wanted to hide, especially in my room or maybe outdoors in a quiet place, maybe in the woods. But overall, if you see the picture on there, it's a whiteboard with all squiggly throughout the whole drawing. That's how I see the world at times, because it's complicated. Another challenge I often faced was being lonely. I had not only dealing with my personal challenges, but I felt lost because I can't relate to people. And after a while, when people talked down to me, I felt like, what's the point? I didn't like myself for that, because no one likes me. Like, why should I like myself? And also brings my lack of self-confidence too. And another thing, I was easily manipulated. And having so much anxiety, it was terrible. And I don't wish that on everybody. I've been talking about challenges, but let's get to the fun part. So overall, I did my very first panel discussion while I was an undergraduate student many, many years ago. And it was for a disabilities and society course. And I had to talk about my personal experience by going through school, working, social life, and things like that. And I personally thought this was basically the only time I'm going to be able to do this. Sign, seal, deliver. But let's go forward probably 5-6 years from now. I moved from Connecticut to Florida. I heard about this facility called the Center for Autism Related Disabilities. And I wanted to register so I could seek services. However, I'm more of a supporter for CARD. They often ask me to speak at their employment boot camp, because I know it's like to maintain a job, finding the right good fit job, what to do in the workplace. And based on my experience, I wanted to share with the community and pass it on to them. Well, during my first year of graduate school, I worked full-time and I was going to school part-time, and boy, I made the biggest mistake. Felt like I was doing 2 full-time jobs. And after a while, I had to come to a conclusion that I think I need to leave my job. I was currently a teacher assistant at a Catholic school, and it wasn't a good fit for me anymore. I just couldn't take it. I wanted to focus on a certain area. So I left the Catholic school, and something amazing happened, and I couldn't believe it. But throughout the whole process of my graduate school, I had straight A's. boy, my mental health was not on my side at that time. My love for student affairs. So during the summer of 2018, I completed my independent study with the Disability Resource Center, my first love in student affairs. And I worked on various projects. If you see the picture on your left, you'll see me walking towards the Disability Resource Center with a black backpack. And that's one of my proudest moments because I had to write the script and direct the commercial to advertise about our services at the University of Florida. And even I became a stronger disability advocate. I served as the vice president of graduate students in Delta Alpha Pi International Honor Society for Students with Disabilities. And my role for that is we had our very first induction ceremony a couple of years ago. I was in charge of it. I done the logistics and making sure we have all the supplies, food, of course, and making sure the room is accessible. And overall, at the end of the night, I noticed people were having a good time. It's all that matters at the end of the day. Now let's go back maybe towards 6 months before. So around September, October of 2018, I got this job. There was a job opening with the Student Affairs Assessment and Research Office. And it was for the scribe note taker. And I'm thinking, I'm reading it over and over again, decide if I should go for it or I shouldn't. And after a couple of days, I said to myself, let's try to do it. If I suck, they won't ask me to come again. But however, they asked me multiple times to come back. So I was a scribe note taker for, they call it external review meetings. Basically, I was in the meetings. I met with student affairs professionals from other universities, come to the University of Florida to meet with a department within student affairs to discuss about not just what to improve, but also successes as well. I've met with other higher education professionals, faculty, staff, students, student leaders. And then at that moment, I began to network. My networking skills has increased in the past 3 years. And I will never forget that moment because it made me to become a better motivational speaker and communicator. And boy, after grad school, oh boy, the job hunt. Terrible. Oh, I do not like this at all. But I was really lonely, felt very isolated. I felt kind of that stuck moment and having that negative mindset. And it was horrible because I felt like I couldn't do anything at all. My anxiety, depression went through the roof. And even though I was applying for jobs again, interviews, I knew a couple people, there was people that I knew in the search committee, but doesn't mean you're gonna get the job. So after applying for over 300 jobs and maybe in around 50 interviews, at the beginning of this year, I was offered as the Neurodiversity Partnership / Community Manager at Soho Square Solutions. It is a management consulting firm, and my role is to help people with disabilities and those without disabilities to find employment in the financial services. As I was learning more about my career development, I registered as a Gator Career Consultant with the University of Florida Career Connection Center. Since I was learning more about myself throughout my whole career process, I had the privilege to do a presentation. And of course, we think, well, while we're looking for jobs, there's other ways to do other activities like volunteering, learning new skills, a lot of self-reflections, understanding who you are, what you want to succeed, and taking some free webinar education courses. And this was going on during the pandemic of 2020. So a lot of sessions for free. But there's one thing I wanted to highlight, which is the most important thing and something I didn't expect. It was having a support system. Having a support system is basically, it could be your family members, friends, colleagues, teachers, professors, supervisors, anyone who's going to support you 100%. And they're going to cheer you up during your successes and your hard times. And while I was getting ready for my interviews and not getting them, they were there for me. And I never thought in a million years this was going to happen, but it did. And I know people mention about mentors, But sometimes if you can't find a mentor, find a group of people to cheer you on. So during my after graduate school kind of deal, I was volunteering as well, and I did my very first podcast. And it was the greatest experience of my life, because I'm talking about my journey throughout looking for jobs. And even another additional activities I did, helping resumes with students with their resumes, and continue to take some courses, have informational interviews. But there's something that changed my life. During the summer of 2020, I heard about this organization called the Resource Key. It is an organization that provides accessible resources, and we market and brand them. And I met with the CEO of this corporation. And at that time, I wanted to start a consulting business, but I didn't know how to start it. Let me do it as a volunteer and learn, and then maybe someday I'll be able to do my own business. So I decided to volunteer, share information about higher education, especially special education, accessibility, accessible technology, and also career development too, because I've been going through that path for a long time. And I'm actually presenting a couple of presentations throughout the past couple of years. Overall, I just want everyone to know that there's always life lessons. Be kind of compassionate to others and seek to understand their differences. We're all unique. We all have similarities and differences. And anyone can overcome any challenge because we're stronger than that. And we're social animals as well. People with autism, but people think we don't want to be part of the community. Well, that's not true. We want to be part of society. And there's no two people with autism are exactly alike. Overall, I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Carissa, for sharing. I definitely really appreciate it. And I got to say, CARD, love that organization. Just as a heads up for everyone in chat as we're transitioning, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in either the Zoom Q&A feature, the chat, or if you're on Facebook Live, feel free to share it over there on Facebook Live. All right, we are moving on to our last speaker of the evening, Scott. Welcome on. And Scott Fraser, tell me if I'm mispronouncing it. I don't think I've ever actually said your last name aloud.
It was fine.
All right, Fraser is an experienced learning executive and has worked in government, academic, and corporate organizations in a global context. Scott is an adult educator of 28 years, has a master's and PhD from the University of Georgia and a master's from the University of Illinois, Chicago. At age 48, Scott was formally identified as being autistic. He is a self-advocate, speaking to a wide audience on various neurodiversity affirming topics important to the #ActuallyAutistic community. And this is an aside, I highly recommend checking out his LinkedIn if you have a chance. It's wonderful. But Scott, I'm going to go ahead and give the floor to you. Your 15 minutes starts now.
Thank you, Ross, and thank you for the kind words about the advocacy work I'm doing on social media. I also want to thank Prairie for inviting me to be here this evening. It's interesting. I'm 50. I was formally identified as being autistic just 2 years ago at age 48. And it was life-changing. I'll say more about that later, but I never envisioned myself as someone who would be an autistic advocate. It never occurred to me. And now that I find myself advocating for myself, I've also advocating for the autistic community as a whole, though really what I'm doing is about me and my learning and my journey, because I'm still relatively new in this autism journey. So I guess maybe a little bit of background of what brought me here. So I'm, like I said, I'm 50 years old. I'm the quintessential, if you will, a white male, corporate job, successful by, whatever professional, academic measure you want to throw at it. But as a kid, I was that awkward kid. I didn't fit in with any particular group. I had only a handful of friends my entire life, but I was okay with that. I still am. And growing up and through my adulthood, I always knew I was different. Some way I was just different, but I didn't know why. As I was growing up in high school, I was really bored with school. There's only one class that I enjoyed. All the others I did not like, never did any homework for the most part, and passed high school purely on tests. I actually was held back a year because of math. It just did not work for me. It didn't make any sort of sense. But eventually I did graduate high school. I became an EMT and then a paramedic, and I was in the healthcare field for 22 years. During that time, I became an instructor and taught either full-time or part-time, and I taught other EMTs and paramedics. And then I decided, well, if I want to further my career, I need to have an education. So 10 years after high school is when I finally went to college. And I struggled at the beginning. I had a hard time learning. I still didn't like doing homework. And I had a difficult time with math, go figure, because I failed it in high school. I ended up having to do some remedial math. And for my business degree, my undergrad, I had to have calculus. And because I had such a hard time with math, calculus was a nightmare, and I thought I was never going to get my degree. Eventually, it made sense. I passed my classes, earned my bachelor's degree, went on to the master's, and then on to a PhD, which ironically, my PhD turned out to be quantitative, and I enjoyed that so much. All the stats classes that I had to take, that a few years after I graduated with my PhD, I decided to go back for the second master's degree in statistics and psychometrics. And that's what I currently do now, is I build exams and do all the math behind it to make sure it works like it should. During my professional career, I always had a hard time either staying in a job for more than 5 years, because I was always looking for that next challenge to keep me driven. But I also had I had the hard time getting promoted within an organization, because there's always the social aspect of it, being seen as the social butterfly, at least in the circles that I was in, was really important to being promoted. So really the only way to go up in that career path is to go to a different organization into that next level up. And that's how it worked for me. And during this time, I was going to school for my graduate degrees, working full time. I started doing other things to keep myself entertained, as it were, from a professional and academic standpoint, because those were just things that interest me. Things that would bore other people to tears really interest me. And it really helped, looking back at it now, it really helped to go through those things, having the interest in doing research, publishing, presenting. All of that actually has really helped me in my advocacy work that I do now. Now you're probably curious, well, why at 48 did you decide to be evaluated for autism. Well, about 6 months before being identified, I was watching a television program with my wife called The Employables. And this is a show that spotlighted people who had neurological differences, autism, Tourette's, some other situations, as they tried to find meaningful employments. And every time they spotlighted an autistic person, I just resonated with that person. It was like I was watching my life on TV. And it got me thinking, maybe I'm autistic. And at that point, I thought that was kind of a crazy idea, because I've been successful, and having grown up, so to speak, professionally in the medical field, and having learned and sort of lived that medical model of autism, I only knew, my only frame of reference was that autism was such a debilitating situation that you can't be successful like I was. So there really couldn't be a way. But as I explored it more and would do the online testing that you can do for free, it really got me thinking, maybe I am. So I started searching for psychologists in my area that specialized in evaluating adults. And I found one. They were wonderful to work with. I went through all the testing, and it confirmed that I'm actually autistic. And I went through this really big emotional roller coaster because I was trying to reconcile what I had learned about autism in my medical career and my life, and now knowing that this is me. And it was crazy, the ups and downs I went through. But reflecting back on it, being formally identified as autistic gave me answers to and explanation for my life experiences. It doesn't dictate what my future is going to be, but it really did shed a lot of light on why I had such problems growing up. And to this day, it gives me that comfort or confidence, if you will, knowing that what I experience as an adult who is autistic is what is supposed to happen for me. I have sensory issues. Everything that moves catches my attention, and I can't filter out things that are unimportant. The classic example that I give is that every single leaf on a tree I see as it's moving in the wind. Every sound that's made, really warm temperatures, I feel that in such an intense way that it's distracting. The other thing that's being identified as an adult late in life is that it's helped me understand what masking is and how stressful that is for somebody to mask, and knowing that for 48 years plus prior, I was masking and didn't realize it. And now sometimes I have to work not to, but I don't mask anymore. And I don't have any problem saying, look, I can't do this. Can you help me? So that's one of the big things that being formally identified has really helped out with. One of the last things I wanted to kind of share with you is the advocacy work I do. I actually came upon it by accident, because I don't really consider myself an advocate as much as I am a self-advocate. I started posting things online about my experiences as a late identified autistic adult rather. And I did that as a means of learning about myself, expressing myself, and kind of capturing that for historical context. And over the last 2 years, that's kind of evolved into now I'm because I know who I am and because I'm a confident adult, I'm able to put myself out in the public view and share, this is who I am. And this is what I want you to know about me and others that are like me. But lately, just this year, I've flipped that script a little bit. Instead of just asserting, this is who I am, this is what autism is all about, this is why you need to know these sorts of things, I've actually shifted that conversation this past month to really focus on, why do we believe this? Especially for those that view things differently or have different perspectives than me. I want to understand why people hold fast to the medical model of disability. Help me understand your thinking and why that's important for you. Why do you prefer person first language? Why do you prefer whatever it is? Help me understand that. And that allows me to, number one, see your point of view. Number two, we all need to have our voices heard, even people that think differently than me. And Carissa had talked about that not long ago, about understanding everybody. And so that's become really important to me. And I believe that we can't affect positive, meaningful, sustainable change unless everybody has a voice. Everybody that has a stake in the game needs to have a voice. And this allows that dialogue to truly happen so we can have mutual understanding. So that's kind of my life story leading up to today. And I guess one of the things I want to leave everybody with is, autism is not a dirty word. Autism is not a scary thing, at least not for me. And it's nothing that you should be afraid of either. And if you haven't, I encourage you to talk to somebody who is autistic and to listen to them and hear about their experiences. It'll be life-changing if you truly listen and try to incorporate small changes in your life that makes everybody's lives easier. So thank you for listening, and I'm gonna turn it back over to Ross.
Thank you. And everyone can come back on video. So now we have reached the question and answer portion. If you have any questions, feel free to toss them in the chat, to share them in the Q&A, or to put them in the Facebook live comments. Again, we'd love to hear your questions. I prepared some just while people are thinking, percolating, letting these ideas go through their head, but I'll give it a moment while I get them up. I should have been more prepared and put this with my notes. Here we go. All right, so I am going to go ahead and start by giving a question for everyone just to go through. If you could have non-autistic people know one thing about being autistic, what would it be? And whoever wants to start with this, we can, and then we do have a question that has just come in. So yeah, let's go through this first one. In this case, we'll just have one person do it because we have a question. We can come back to this for everyone else, depending on how this next question goes. So who would like to go first? Everyone is muted. So the joys of the Zoom world. But who all would like to start?
I would say that there's no normal, or your normal is not normal.
Anyone else want to share real quick before we get into this other question?
I guess I'll go then. I said it during the presentation, just people just accept each other, and we all want to be part of the community. So just wanted to point that out.
Scott, you got anything you want to add to this?
I guess the only other thing to add on top of what I said a few moments ago is we hear people say, don't let autism define you, but really autism is how we experience the world, and don't be afraid of owning that.
Yeah, awesome. And I agree with everything, frankly. But moving on to this question, let me go ahead and answer it. So you all talked a lot about how autism has impacted your professional lives. How can neurotypical people be better coworkers for their autistic colleagues? Does anyone want to be the sorry, go ahead.
Especially like in the employment world, when you have orientation and you have different teachings or courses or whatever about different things, neurodiversity should be included in that. It should be taught as an automatic thing, just like sexual harassment. It should just be that integrated. So in the job process, everybody, there's that awareness, but then that also will, I think, start touching on acceptance, because it's so accessible. That's it.
I would say be, this is going to sound pedantic, and I really don't mean it to be, but be patient with us. For myself, I take things extremely literally. So I'm going to ask you a lot of questions if you're my coworker to make sure I understand what you're trying to tell me, because quite honestly, not every message that a neurotypical person gives is very clear. There's a lot of subtext or unstated assumptions, and that just doesn't work for me. So I'm going to ask a lot of questions, and yeah, you got to be ready for that.
That would be, that would
sorry.
be of the book.
Krista, do you have anything you
I'll
want?
just, absolutely, yeah. So I was losing my internet, but
You are slightly robotic, I think. Can you hear us? Up. I think her video is off. She's rejoining.
oh man, technology is something else. I just lost internet. Now I have it back again. How? Oh boy. So overall, I agree with Trina and Scott mentioned. However, I wanted to kind of like highlight something really important, especially with finding jobs, recruitment, and things like that. I was able to study about how can we make our recruiting, the interview process, more accessible. And it's with patience, of course, but also having accommodations available as well, making sure everyone's comfortable, right? And going to interviews is not a piece of cake. And I know that for a fact, been through it so many times, and that's all I have to say as well. I'm sorry, I'm losing track because of tech. My internet is going on and off.
No, I totally understand that. Again, love having the internet be a wonderful, wonderful thing. So, but yeah, no, all that's awesome. Bringing on the next question from that has just come in the chat. Are short-term memory or propaganda face blindness issues common with autism spectrum disorder? I'll actually take this one since I'm currently doing the whole PhD on essentially autism. Yes, it's common, but it's not necessarily in terms of pure, I don't recognize your face. It's often, in my experience being autistic, but also in the research, it's often as much you recognize the person, the personality. It's not you're not necessarily recognizing someone by you. We make associations with people not necessarily just from the sort of typical, yes, I recognize that someone's face looks this way. You connect things that are beyond just the, physical features. And oftentimes this comes across with the face blindness, but also certain memory is a huge one. There's a concept called executive function, which I see everyone else nodding. It's my favorite thing in the world. And basically what it is it's executive function is how do you organize things? How do you organize the world around you? And so one of the big challenges in autism, as well as a lot of different neurodivergence, is executive function. And we can all, if everyone wants to, we can all probably share a story about it. But it's something that I've ran into a lot. But let's start with other people's stories. Scott, I saw you unmute very quickly there.
I was going to say, this happens to me frequently. And at work, for example, unfortunately, I work for a wonderful company, have an incredible boss. And I have the benefit of being able to say, look, I can't work today. I cannot focus on anything. I can't prioritize. My executive functioning is just shot. So I'll try it again tomorrow or later on today. That happens. It happens probably more often than I want it to. And sometimes I push through it, but when it happens, what can you do?
It's the truth.
Oh boy. Go ahead, Trina. Sorry about that.
And what he speaks the truth, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, it's short-term memories. It's really difficult overall, and it depends on the person too. For me, I forget about lots of things. In order for me to remember things is to write things down. I do have a better time with my long-term memory with the emotions, because just to get to know people, it just sticks in my mind for a while.
And just there's a follow-up in the chat that I'm going to read aloud. Thank you for answering my questions. I asked about Propaganja because I have ASD and I struggle with imagining faces of close family / friends, but I can recognize them if I see them in person. And same, like I can recognize a picture of someone. I can recognize, all the wonderful people here, but it's one of those where it's like, if I'm trying to think of somebody, or even sometimes just concepts, like what does a 747 look like? Trying to put that into my head sometimes doesn't, always happen.
For me, I can remember all sorts of faces and places, things, what you just mentioned, but names, I can't, they don't stick. They just don't stick. So if I know you and I never say your name, it's because I can't remember, but it doesn't mean I don't know you.
Good to know.
No, I'm the same way. It's why I'm glad that when I originally went to undergrad, I went thinking I was going to become, a high school history teacher, because history, special interest. Let's figure out a way to do that. Glad I didn't go that route and went to the first, teacher ed meeting and was like, this is not for me. And because I would never remember the names of students. It would be, I'd be the teacher where it's like, all right, everyone, pull out your little name tag, put it on there for like the entire year. Like, it's great as well when people recognize you and you're like, ah, yes, I know who you are, but I cannot think of your name. So I'm just gonna, no, and I'm
Would totally system with the names and like try to put them in some order alphabetically or by how they sound or phonetically, and just because that's how I think with the systems. I'd figured.
Wow. Thank you for sharing one. Actually, I don't like when I get to know people, I remember their names right away because I'm a visual learner. And sometimes when I meet people, it's like, oh, I remember you, but I've forgotten your name. Time, like maybe a couple minutes later, it's like, oh, that's the person's name, duh.
Mhm.
So kind of little stuff like that. Again, it really depends on who you are. And my short-term memory is okay, but it's not the greatest. But that's another story with my hearing issues as well.
And I kind of want to jump off of that. You know, it's one of the things that people kind of, one of the reasons why I'm so glad that it's not just me here today. There have been a lot of events where I've been the autistic person speaking. There's a wide range of experiences, and that's something I'm glad to, you know, be able to share with this. And kind of going off of that, what is kind of the biggest support slash thing that you found helps with the everyday challenges of being autistic? Because there's lots of good stuff about being autistic. You know, the way that I organize the world, at least personally, has helped me be able to come to conclusions that other people don't. But at the same time, there's a lot of things that still, you know, I run into where I need some support. So anybody have any fun stories with that, or anything that they particularly want to share? Maybe not a fun story, but
I have lots of embarrassing stories, especially I'm not good with time. I'm blindness. So I guess I would go and get gas, and somehow I'd get like maybe half a gallon or something, or just enough to get where I'm going, because it's that exact. And I would come back maybe a week later and they'd be like, I remember when you did that. And I'm like, no, I actually really don't. And I'm on the spectrum, by the way. And I don't like to like use that, I guess, but also it just answers a lot of things at once. At least that's my story. Lots of just odd things like that. Yeah. Could have been ADHD that time too, now that I think about it.
Well, with my luck, what helps me get through every day is just to work hard overall. But I have a strong faith in God. I grew up Catholic, and anyone can relate this. As long as you have faith in, even though things are tough, you can accomplish anything.
You gotta have something.
So when you asked that question, Ross, it made me think about one of the ways my wife supports me. I absolutely hate making appointments, whether it's doctor, dentist, whatever. I will go without before I call and make an appointment. If I can do it online, I'm fine, but I'm not going to call and make an appointment. She does that for me, which that's it, you know, especially as I get older, it's becoming more and more important. And I also, because of the sensory experience, going to the dentist is absolutely horrifying. And even something as simple as a cleaning, I need to have the nitrous oxide. And if it gets more than that, I need to have conscious sedation. So I can't drive. I can't do anything for about a day afterwards because the sensory experience is just so overwhelming. And if it wasn't for her, I couldn't do any of that.
and I agree, just entirely. Just as a small aside, I'm actually on the board of a organization operating as Hukama out of Florida, actually developing kits, because that's a very common experience. You know, the dentist is a horrible sensory experience, and the goal is to help, starting with kids, but hopefully it'll move up to adults if it's successful, to, you know, work with that, because it's, you know, this huge thing that people tend to avoid. But no, I definitely think that that it's important to have, some sort of support, right? Whether it's, other people, like you said, or being able to have something to fall back on, or just, being able to explain things. I think that one thing that we haven't mentioned yet that I do want to share is there are some supports that are, more physical. For example, these headphones that I have on, not just for the fact that they are good headphones, but they are one of my biggest supports. The noise sensory issues are huge for me. And almost paradoxically, I'm also sensory seeking, which is one of the things that people, I think, don't understand about autism, is that you're looking at both sensory avoidant, which is, the typical, yes, I must avoid sound. But you also have people who want things, I often will find myself stimming on things, which is a whole other topic we do not have time to cover today. But music is a huge support, and having good headphones is important. I have just been given the 5-minute warning, so I'm going to go ahead and close this out. First of all, thank all three of you for coming on, and thank everyone want to thank everyone who has come out to join us today. It is really important to share these kinds of experiences with the world, because this is how one of the ways that change happens. Oftentimes autism is depicted very much as that of a young white boy who is getting some sort of service. It is often that the lived experiences of people who do not fit that model are not necessarily shared. And oftentimes, there are few places where institutions that have sort of social capital, like Prairie, that are, respected, are willing to share some of that space. This is a wonderful event that has been amazing to be able to get these stories out there. I think that, again, every autistic person is just one story. And so getting 4 different stories out here is fantastic. There's nothing about us without us. Thank you, everyone who has come out tonight. We will post this video up for anybody who has missed part of it on Facebook and other places on the internet. Hope everyone here has a great rest of your night. Thank you again, and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.